with our agenda for County Commissioners meeting October 12th, 2011. First item on the agenda is public input. Anybody have any public input for the betterment of the county and the praising of the commissioners or whatever? Yes.
No, I defer to
Go ahead. Mr. Brown, right?
Yes, I researched that the snow blower issue.
Yep.
And for a professional 32-inch errands, it's $2,500 at Home Depot.
Which is 25 what?
$2,500.
And that was a 53-inch?
32.
32.
Contractor or professional series errands. $2,500, not.
Okay.
Not 4,000. I was going to say you can get a snowblower for less than $4,000.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Mr. Albee.
And unfortunately, I missed the delegation meeting the other day.
You didn't miss much.
But having watched a bit of it, I think that the Tea Party that they're members of is the one from Alice in Wonderland, not the one from Boston. I mean, the Tweedledee and Tweedledum and all the rest of them. Notwithstanding this philosophical issue of big government versus small government, looking just at the building, I think what you need to appreciate, if they are in fact praising without limit the private sector and the private sector's ability to do the job right, I think it's time for the commissioners to offer that building to the private sector in the form of a lease. If the delegation's unwilling to take advantage of these opportunities that are available, there's no reason for those opportunities to be just completely dismissed. A reasonable rent on the building with a commercial tenant would be willing to do the upgrades of the building and charge rent for the space available, I think is workable. I've talked to 3 different individuals just in passing. It's a business model that could work from the standpoint of the private individual.
Can we just make this clear that we're talking about the old nursing home?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah,
Please.
It's interesting to me that there's all this pontification about what government should be doing and shouldn't be doing from these state representatives who depend to a large degree for the state budget on having a monopoly on the retail of liquor and the wholesale of liquor, and owning a ski area. So what government should be doing or shouldn't be doing, I don't think is really the issue. I think the issue is they want to somehow qualify themselves as bona fide members of this movement to destroy things. And the tearing down of that nursing home without fully exploring the possibilities of the private sector is similar to asking Kathy Gary to cash a check for $200,000 and taking it out into the field and burning it. You're going to end up with the same thing. Nothing. I mean, taking that out of play, you've created no employment, created no opportunity for any business startups. You've created no opportunity for anyone in the county to make any money or for the county to recoup any of the investment that it's already made. So I think put an ad in the paper, offer the building for lease, and see what comes of it before you just tear it down.
If I could comment on that.
Sure.
Whenever we put money into renovating a building, the delegation is then responsible or has the authority to control whatever happens to that building once we put renovation money into it. If we did nothing to it right now, it could sit there forever and ever if it was up to the commissioners. But we can't do anything to it.
Right.
Okay?
And what I'm saying is that perhaps you don't need to do anything to it. I mean, rent it today for $1. Let someone else rehabilitate the building. Let someone else charge the rent. Let someone else find the tenants. Let someone else maintain the building. At that point, you still are creating opportunity for residents of the county. You haven't thrown something away. You know, and I say $1 simply,
Yeah.
you know, it's a specious number, but I mean, you can come up with a reasonable number that works for the developer and also works for the county, and takes advantage of a building that exists and gives an opportunity to the marketplace.
But how would that work when we've already committed the UNH extension to that building?
Then they pay the rent to the...
I understand that, but can we, if we lease it to somebody, can we then dictate to them a tenant that they have to take?
Sure, we don't have anything in writing, Dorothy. You can create your initial lease however you want to create it. If you want to create it that says that half of the building is yours to do with what you will. If you want to say the whole building and the nursing home will pay rent for its laundry space and maintenance, you can do anything you want. But it's looking at the situation from the standpoint of an opportunity versus from the standpoint of some dogmatic nonsense that Schmidt or McCarthy or any of these other nitwits come up with.
Be careful of what kind of language you use at a commissioners meeting, okay?
And another issue, on Thursday there's a redistricting meeting here, and I'm wondering if the commissioners have thought about or intend to address the county commissioner districts, because there is an imbalance of about 900 votes, or 900 residents.
With that in mind, where are we out of balance?
We're out of balance in that District 3 has got about 900 more residents than District 2, and District 1 has about 700 residents more than District 2. So it needs a little bit of adjusting from the standpoint of the residents. Also, and I know they don't take into account theoretically registered voters, but that's also skewed. That said, I mean, there's no political angle to it because the county is predominantly Republican. If Babson's bill were to pass,
What's his bill?
His bill is that the commissioners will only run in the districts for which they're
only vote. Only the people within the commissioner's district will vote for that commissioner.
Correct.
Yeah.
So it would make more sense if those districts were more closely aligned to the current representation.
Right.
I'll take District 3 for instance. Currently Tuftonboro is represented by half a representative from Wolfboro and half a representative from Moultonboro, although Moultonboro is in District 2 in the county district, but it's in District 3 for the county commissioners. So there's some adjusting that probably should be made, and geographically, and for those of us who've lived here a long time, there really are 3 regions in the county. There's the lake, the boroughs, the Route 16 corridor, and then Mount Washington Valley.
That's 4.
Right.
Pardon me?
That's 4.
3. Well, the lake and the boroughs are the same thing.
Oh, okay.
I should have a comma in there probably. So it would seem logical that you'd have Wolfboro, Moultonboro, Tuftonboro, all in the same district, for instance, and that your Mount Washington Valley district would be the Mount Washington Valley.
That would put you in the same district.
Had you thought anything about talking about that on Thursday?
No, I don't have those kinds of figures available to me, or have I looked for them. I thought that was a public meeting, and it's up to anybody that wants to speak at that meeting. Yes, Damon?
So how from our estimates on how to rehab the building, I mean, how much will it cost to make sure the wings don't leak and, you know, it's usable space? Or does it depend on what you use it for? What I'm saying is, the Republicans and the delegation keep saying, well, we don't, if it's going to cost a lot to rehab, it might be more costly than it's worth. Well, is there anything that can confirm or disconfirm that suspicion?
Well, if you use a cooperative extension as an example, they're willing to move into that facility with very little renovation required, versus what initially we started with. It was going to gut it and do everything all over, which was going to be very costly. But cooperative extension has met with Bonnet, Page and Stone and have come up with an agreement that certain things need to be done, but not as elaborate as it was initially established. So for cooperative extension, it's going to be relatively a lot cheaper than it was initially.
But we're going to save the core anyway. We really need to know about the wings.
Right. We don't have a figure on the wings.
Is there a way to get one?
We can get one from Bonnet, Page and Stone, sure.
Okay. But I mean, that seems to be the number that we need to know. I mean, everybody needs to know that number.
Well, you know, right now, the delegation has made a motion not to reconsider tearing down those wings. And so those wings right now are a non-issue. Delegation says they're coming down. That's if we put money into it, according to an RSA that gives them the power or authority to say what happens to that building if we put in more than $5,000 or something like that.
Now, if you put in $4,999.
That's not going to get us very far.
In this study, that's not going to get you very far.
No. Mr. Harvey.
I know that the town of Ossipee has assessed all the buildings in the county. It's interesting that the number never seems to surface, but there is a bona fide appraisal on the value of that building as it stands.
Mm-hmm.
That's what that building is worth. And you can start looking at the pieces of it or what it might cost to rehabilitate it. But if you have that number, and then you have a market value on space, which is pretty easy to generate just by looking around, it starts to become pretty obvious which direction you have to go. I mean, if the assessed value on the building is $200,000, is it worth putting $1 million into it? Maybe not. But if the assessed value on the building is higher, and the increased value of rehabilitation is marketable, then it makes sense. I mean, it's regardless of the current article that Maynard Thompson talks about. I mean, you really do have to look at these things pragmatically. You can't just look at them in a vacuum or in some theoretical political position of, you know, is this an appropriate use of government? Well,
yeah. I thought it was ideal with Health and Human Services coming in and using this building for a couple of reasons. One, it would have saved the state some money, which apparently they're not interested in doing, and it would have perhaps, after looking at all the figures, putting it all together, would have made some money to rehab that building out of that rent. But the delegation, the majority of delegation, does not want to see government grow. They don't think we should be in the rental business. And they don't, from what I understand, they don't want to see us create any revenue to offset taxes. That's the direction that I see them going in. And it'd be up to the voters to decide whether that's the direction they should go in or not.
The hypocrisy is amazing, because the thousands of square footage of buildings and office space in Concord that the state owns and rents.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, none of that's in play. I mean, the notion that they've directed to Health and Human Services, which is the largest expense in the state,
right,
to consolidate their operations.